Common Knowledge is brought to you by PureMTGO.com and InkedGaming.com. Use coupon code CCMTG10 at checkout for a 10% discount on all Inked Gaming supplies and accessories. You can support the show directly through Patreon at patreon.com/common knowledge.
This is the Common Knowledge Podcast. It's not about the cost, it's about the knowledge. Here are your hosts, Brandon Clark and Lobbert.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 40 of the Common Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, B. Randon. Oh, yeah, that was bad. Let's start over again. Welcome to the podcast. This is episode 40 of Common Knowledge. How are you guys doing? I'm Brandon, your host, and joined with me is...
Lobbert.
Lobbert.
How are you doing this week?
Oh, pretty good. It's been a busy week. I've had like infinite schoolwork and a bunch of like midterm projects and stuff due. So it's been busy. I've been job hunting.
This last week was like about average for me, but this coming week is like I work every day, and that's not going to be fun. So
yeah, that stinks. I'm starting a new job next week, so so it'll be busy, but not busy enough to not play any poppers.
Oh yes.
Ah, yes. So, Sean, what did you play?
So this week I just kept on playing Burn. I'm going to switch over to Elves because we want to do an Elves episode sometime this week.
Your show notes say Burns and Brews. That sounds like a coffee shop down in the Rakdos section of Ravnica. Burns and Brews.
Yeah, because like I don't know if everywhere in the country has Beans and Brews, but yeah, Burns and Brews.
That's super funny.
I'm really enjoying I'm just playing tons of mono red decks. I'm playing my mono red mid range, and I'm working on this weird video. I don't know if anyone's gonna like it, or I think it's gonna make people overdose on Magic or get annoyed. It's gonna be crazy. Anyway, what'd you play this week?
I played some more Elves. I'm really into those little green boys, those elfy boys. The deck is so much fun, and I think it's just still really good.
And we've both made a commitment. I'm calling it a commitment. It was more like a conversation that we're both going to put our game win-losses into a doc on our show notes doc. And we're going to actually be able to track how well we do and get some more good information about these decks. I think that's going to be sweet. Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to do, by, I guess, popular demand, is I'm going to be playing some Slivers. Yeah.
It's a fun deck. How about that?
I mean, it's my favorite tribe, but...
I love to hate it. How about that? I do love to hate some Slivers.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I kind of... I guess made a new commitment to the listeners. I don't know if commitment's the right word, but basically I just kind of came to the conclusion that I shouldn't be focusing so much on me exclusively playing the best decks to try and win. I should be branching out and playing as many decks as possible and trying to learn everything, whether I win or not. That way I can, play 3 leagues with a deck and go 0-15 and know that, like, hey, I can tell my listeners that this deck isn't great, and I can say that with a little more confidence, because I guess my purpose is I want to try to make our listeners better, and I want them to have success. So I've been focusing a little more on me personally having success, and I just don't think that's what my role is, and so I want to be making sure my listeners are having as much success as possible. And I can't really do that if all I can tell them is, this is what I know about Scred Delver. I want to be able to speak with a little more authority and give them the best content that I can possibly give them. So I put that out to the listeners, and I said, if you guys have any ideas or things that you want me to play, and they all kind of just came in and were like, play slivers so that you'll eat your fist. Which, I mean, I'm not going to be eating my fist because there's no way in heck.
You're winning a
First
challenge.
First of all, there's no way in heck Slivers is winning a challenge. Second of all, there's no way in heck that I'm winning a challenge with Slivers. So I don't know what they're expecting. I'm going to play I'm going to try to get Slivers together, at least in paper, to go play on Tuesday night. And then if I can get it together online, I'll play a league or two. And I'm fully expecting that I'll come back next week with a remarkable loss rate. And I'll be able to report that to you guys.
You know, one of my losses that I have recorded, and so far I am only playing in tournament practice games. So, you know, when I think we're gonna eventually release these stats in some form or fashion, but when you look at them, like I'm at a 66% win rate, and I did lose to Slivers. That's out of like I think close to 30 games now. So, you know, having those big boys is hard. You can actually race a deck just sending everything at your face.
Yeah, those slivery boys.
Slivery boys.
All right. So should we move on to the card of the week?
Yeah.
Card of the week.
Let's do it. Sean, talk to us. What is our card of the week?
Our card of the week is Benevolent Bodyguard. Benevolent Bodyguard is a 1-mana 1/1. Costs a single white for a human cleric. You can sacrifice Benevolent Bodyguard, and target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn.
Wow.
So, Brandon, why did I choose this spell?
I don't know, to be honest.
I think
I don't know.
it's actually a played spell, and it's kind of one of my go-to cards when I'm brewing.
Yeah, I've seen it in like heroic lists and
what's it called? The Rallygond. Stuff like that.
Rallygond, things like that. And so
it protects your combo, and you don't have to play it the same turn. So a turn 3 or 4 combo with this up is a lot more likely. Yeah. And it can just beat in for a bit of damage.
Yeah, it's not affected by summoning sickness at all. So that's you're not ever pressured into, I need to untap with my Benevolent Bodyguard. If you have a Benevolent Bodyguard and they kill it, next turn you can just play another one and still try to go off.
It's a protection spell that protects against edicts too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's an incredible point. Yes. Interesting. What would you I don't know, maybe you're not a good person to ask this question, but what are your thoughts on Benevolent Bodyguard in like a tribe deck, like sideboard of tribe decks? That seems kind of interesting.
Terrible. You can't find it off of Augur of Bolas, which is a huge tick against it.
But you also can't find the standard bearer off Augur of Bolas.
Yes, but Standard Bearer just hoses so many matchups where Benevolent Bodyguard is pretty good.
It's just that much better than Bodyguard that it's worth the inclusion.
Plus, I don't know, you have to... A lot of the time I would imagine that Tribe wants to play their Tribe the turn they get their white mana available. And this would make you put that off for a turn, and I don't like that. Where Apostle's Blessing, you can use your blue mana.
That's a good point. Okay. Yeah, I guess Apostle's Blessing, that's probably just a little better. Those are good points.
But there are plenty of white decks where you're just trying to protect a guy, kind of Tron him out. Just equip a bunch of stuff, and you need a way to protect him, and this guy serves that role. I think he's not the most played card, but certainly very good.
Yeah, he's a good card, and he's worth thinking about when you're looking into aggressive weenie decks. I think this card fits very, very well into heroic lists. I don't think he's played in every heroic list, but I've seen him included in quite a few, and I think he's very strong.
And he can do that whole, block sack thing. So you can block with 2 creatures, sack him, and then that both of those creatures are going to get blocked, and the other creature you blocked with is going to live for sure.
Right. Maybe even eat something in combat.
Yeah.
Instead of trading.
And that's a lot of value off of a 1-mana creature.
Yeah.
So we've talked this up, and now I want to talk about the downsides. It's not Apostle's Blessing. It's not a surprise thing. It can't protect against artifact spells, which comes up, I think, a fair amount. Like, if you're trying to use it for its unblockability, you can't say artifact.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest one is just the fact that it is a creature, right? You already touched on that the surprise factor's gone. There's probably a lot of scenarios where you need a protection spell and you have Benevolent Bodyguard in your hand, and then you cast Benevolent Bodyguard and they just respond and kill your creature or whatever. So I think that Benevolent Bodyguard really needs to be on the battlefield first for it to be good. If you're drawing it after the fact, that it gets significantly worse.
Yeah, I have laid this down, and then I'm like, the next turn I'm going to do whatever, and they're just like, Chainer's Edict you, and I'm just like, nah, okay. And so something like an Apostle's Blessing would be a lot better in that situation.
Well, not really if they're edicting you. You're in the same boat regardless.
I guess maybe an edict is a bad example, but like I'm just saying, like they kill it and then they pass the turn back with some sorcery speed removal.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, you still got a removal spell out of their hand, and I imagine that you have other ways to defend your creatures. This isn't the only thing. I think that if this is the only way you're trying to protect your creatures, I don't know, probably doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You know, you probably need a lot going into it. Like the heroic deck, like if I think about all the built-in forms of protection that deck has, they have the Trailblazer, which is just a 0/4. It's big old booty just is a form of protection. You know, they've already got Apostle's Blessing. They've got Chomano's Blessing, which is sort of the same as Benevolent Bodyguard because it's sorcery speed. And then you add a couple copies of Benevolent Bodyguard into the mix. And so you're diversifying a lot of your answers to their answers. So you don't want to just go all in on Benevolent Bodyguard. You know,
it doesn't trigger heroic specifically for the heroic deck either. So that's why I don't see them like jamming 4.
Yeah, I think the most I've ever seen in heroic decks is like 2, but I think it's good. You know, for a lot of the reasons that you talked about. It's funny because it being a creature is such a big upside in a lot of ways, but it's also like its biggest flaw.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Alrighty, so that was the card of the week, Benevolent Bodyguard. So we're going to jump on into our main topic.
Main topic.
September power rankings. I was trying to remember what month it was.
It's October now.
It's October now. I was like, what was last month? September. So September power rankings. And oh boy, I'll give you guys one guess at what the top deck was. Is it Delver? It sure was.
No, it wasn't.
What?
No, it's not.
Blue Scred Delver. Is it Delver? Blue Red Delver.
No, it's not number 1.
That's not number 1?
It's not number 1.
You're lying to me.
Nope.
No. What was number 1?
It was Marasa Tron.
Wow.
Tron.
Holy
so
cow.
It was at least number 2, right? Scred Delver was number 2. You're telling me.
Scred Delver had to have been number 2, right?
Nah.
No. What timeline is this?
My favorite timeline.
Yeah, not the darkest timeline anymore. Yeah, this month in power rankings, there were some crazy upsets. First, let's talk about. Well, I guess let's first say, Scred is at 3rd place after 6 months consecutively being the number 1 deck by a margin.
Yes, like it was like not even close for months and months and months, and finally, it fell. Like, it's a relief. This is okay. Mm-hmm. This is why I wanted to do power rankings episodes. Like the last couple months, I was beginning to doubt that I wanted to keep doing them because it had just stayed the same. Like how fun is it to talk about decks fighting for like third through sixth
and
place?
Third place,
Like,
yeah.
let's see who gets number 2 this week. Finally, we got something interesting. We got a mix-up. This month is my favorite, and I haven't even finished recording the episode yet.
And I feel great vindication because I saw this coming weeks ago. I was like, I'm not high on Scred Delver right now. It's having a rough time. And slowly over the last couple months, it's been declining. It's still been on the top, but it's been on the decline. And now it just kind of got buried by 2 other decks.
And to our merit, last month we were like, this next month could be the month. If it's going to happen, this looks like a month that it could happen. And if you look at the graph that is free on our Patreon page, if you want to go visit that, you can see the just almost linear. It is not those bumps, but it is almost a linear decline of
it was like Delver. Way up here, and that's slowly been kind of doing this and this, and then it just went, whoop! I am the suck. I want to put some dashboard confessional on right now because I'm so vindicated.
You're wrong and selfish.
I am selfish. I am wrong, but I am right. I swear I'm right.
Stop it.
I knew it all along.
Yeah, Scred Delver lost 11 points. Like, it took 2 months. So it lost 11 points this month, 10 points the previous month. That's how big of a dive this deck had to take to even drop below 1. It's still third deck, right? Yeah. And what did you say before the show? How popular was it still?
It was the second most popular deck. Marasa Tron was the first most popular deck. But Scred Delver was the second most popular deck. But Scred Delver only had 1 top 8 the entire month. The rest of them were top 16, top 32s.
So we're not seeing a decline in popularity. It's definitely a decline in power.
People are still playing this deck. It's just kind of getting smushed.
I mean, how many months can a deck stand up to everyone saying you have to be able to beat this deck to play in a challenge? Apparently 6. It can stand up for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to wait and see what next month brings before we, start celebrating too much. But I'll be honest, I'll be very surprised if Scred Delver is back on top. And if it is on top, it's going to be very close margins.
It's very possible. It wouldn't be surprising.
I think I would be surprised. I don't think it's very well placed currently in the meta. I would be surprised, honestly, if it was me.
So now the rush is to find who's the number 1 deck in the format, and
Tron.
Like this Tron month it's Tron.
Yeah, Tron is trying to take its spot. It doesn't care what you say. It's on top, and he don't want to move. Tron up there on the rock. I am Tron, king of the rock.
And then I kind of want to do the thing that I did with Delver when it was at 70 points, right?
Oh.
Yeah, that time in our lives. This is not the only Tron deck. Marasa Tron is number 1, and there are other Tron decks sprinkled throughout the power rankings.
If we do all the math, Delver is the number 1 archetype. There are a total of 80 points worth of Delver decks. Tron is significantly less than that.
So let's start going down these.
Tron is like the mid-50s.
Let's start going down these because I really want to make a point about one of the decks going down here. And I don't want to skip anything before we do that.
We've kind of touched a bit on Scred Delver, and we'll get to the other Delver archetypes when we get to them. But let's just 41 points, Marasa Tron. How is this deck on top right now? Brandon coming with the hard-hitting questions, the deep soul-searching questions.
I'm so tentative to answer now because,
yeah,
I don't know. It's a tough question.
Because I mean, I think that we'll see this trend through the rest of the power rankings, but the format is getting very aggressive. and I feel like that shouldn't serve Tron very well.
Well, okay. I don't want to say the format is flat getting aggressive. It's polarizing. There are very aggressive decks doing really well, and
Sure.
there are also really slow control decks that are doing well. And it's like, if you're going to be the slow control deck, be the biggest, best slow control deck. And if you're going to be a faster deck, be that. And
Sure. And we've already kind of talked about how we feel about Tron. It can be a dog to some of these aggressive matchups like Burn and such, but it does have tools that it can on the right draw, turn these really bad matchups into a little bit closer. It can narrow the gap a bit, I think, and so maybe that's just what we're seeing. It just does very well against these big control decks because it's the biggest of the decks, and it does have tools where it's not just a complete wash against some of these other aggressive decks. It can close those margins a bit.
So we talked about the Burn Tron matchup a bit last week, and I feel like I have a little bit more to say about it now.
Now that you're the resident Burn expert?
I'm not a Burn expert because I know people have jammed thousands more games with it than I have.
Well, that's why I said resident Burn expert.
Oh, resident.
You're definitely the expert over me when it comes to this deck. You've definitely played more with it than I have. I've just been on the receiving end of it.
Burn has really good hands that definitely beat Tron, and there's no way that Tron can compete. But there are some very clunky hands in Burn, where if you hit 5 lands in a game, like Marosatron won't let you. Like, there are a lot of hands in Burn where you're like, okay, I got you to 5, and then they're just like, okay, I gotta win the game fast, and they just try to assemble something, and you're just like, oh, 3 ya, oh, land, 2 ya, oh, land, 1 ya,
and they're like, gain 6 life in response.
And yeah, Marosatron can kind of keep its foot in the door so that you can't end the game, and they're never gonna just like let you slowly whittle them down in those end turns. That's what I kind of meant. Like, it's kind of validating that my point of it has the tools to beat Burn. So if they stumble at all, that can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's sort of what I was saying. Yeah, if the Burn deck stumbles, Tron does have the tools available to capitalize on it. Still not going to go as far to say that it's a positive matchup in any way. But they definitely take the matchup from this to, closer to this, I think, on some occasions, on some draws. So, cool. Should we go on to 37 points?
Yep.
Cool. So we've got Boros Monarch. And this one, I don't know. I don't want to say I was surprised, but like I've been kind of off of this deck for a while. Mostly just because I don't think it has a good Delver matchup.
It has one of the more decent ones. It's not like abysmal.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It is a very close matchup. I do think Delver is the favorite, but if there are a lot of other decks beating up on Delver, like I can certainly go down this list and see a lot of things that if I'm Boros Monarch, I'm happy to play against. Mono Blue Delver, Elves, Burn, Tribe combo. There's just a lot of these really polarized decks here that I'm really excited about if I'm Boros Monarch, and I think those are kind of beating up on Scred Delver a lot. And so Boros kind of snuck in past him like, hee on your left.
I feel validated again. Like, this is the Sean feels validated week. Boros Monarch, I've said, is the second best deck in the format. And right now, the numbers back that up. Even last week, where it kind of took a dive from being the second best deck, like, I was like, I still say it's the second best. And then here it is, right at number 2.
Boom.
Just flyers and removal the deck.
Not just flyers. Some of the most efficiently costed flyers in the format. 2 mana 2/3s and 1 mana 2/2s, facing off against a lot of other just less efficient creatures. The only reason I say that I think Scred Delver is a positive matchup in their favor is Scred Delver just has so much more just like raw tempo, card advantage. And I've just seen Boros Monarch spin its wheels too often, where it's just like, well, I'm going to play a tap land and then I'm going to play a Prophetic Prism and draw a card. And then the Scred player's like, cool, I have a window to hit you with a Ninja. And all they really need is a window to hit you once with Ninja, and they're already so far ahead.
But that hasn't been how I've felt. Like, there are those times, and then when I'm like playing against the deck and I'm like, hopefully this is a spin the wheels draw, and it's just like, bird, kill ya. Bird, kill that.
You're also not playing.
I'm not playing Scred Delver.
Scred Delver just has, I can go turn 1 Fairy Miscreant, and they kind of just trade 1 for 1, right? And then Scred Delver starts pulling ahead with card advantage, whereas Boros Monarch doesn't. It just replaces the cards that it's playing. The only real form of raw card advantage this deck has is the Monarch. And the Monarch, I don't usually feel safe slamming a 4-mana card against Scred Delver. It's very easy for them to steal the Monarch away, and you never get it back. And
that's true. But they don't have raw card advantage, but their 1-mana bird is a 2 toughness creature, and their 2-mana bird is a 3 toughness creature, and that can really get in the way. So that's why I think it's 50-50, is because one is faster and the other one is more mid-range.
And I don't think it's 50-50. I think it's 45-55 or 47-52. I think they're definitely close. I don't want anyone to mistake me saying that it's a blowout on Boros' side, but I think that Delver has percentage points in the matchup. I think that at the extreme, it's a 45-55.
Okay, and that's close enough to 50 that I'm happy, and we can move on.
Cool. So third place, 30 points, Scred Delver, and we've kind of just been talking about that. I don't know that there's much more I want to say about it. It's just the format's becoming very polarized. There are a lot of very, very linear, very aggressive decks that demand very specific draws from the Delver decks. And I just think that Delver doesn't have a strong enough top end against these really aggressive decks that they can capitalize on, sort of fiddling over their mana on, turns 1, 2, and 3. Turn 2 or something, I played a tapped land and then a cantrip, and then on turn 3 I'm going to have an untapped red source, but the elf deck has just gone blah, and that turn 3 is too late, a turn too late, and there's a lot of that in this format right now.
I think the easiest thing to point to of why Scred Delver continued to take a dive, I think while it was at 41 points last month, if nothing had changed other than what Burn was better and Stompy was doing well.
Yeah, Burn was in second place or something last month.
Yeah. If nothing else had changed, I think it would still be on top, but the number 4 deck existing is the reason why it took a dive.
Yes.
So what is our number 4 deck, Brandon?
Our number 4 deck, coming out of left field, Blue-Black Delver.
The deck that had 0 points the month before.
Yep.
2 points the month before that. And then 0 and then 0. This deck just came out of nowhere. And now we all have to be aware that Blue-Black Delver is one of the best decks in the format, according to these numbers, right?
Right. Yeah, and I'm going to go back to my theory from Scred Delver is that the clunky mana base of Scred Delver hurts it in the really early stages of a game against some of these polarized aggressive decks. It just doesn't have the top end to mitigate that. This Blue-Black Delver deck does, though, because it can cantrip on turn 1, Thought Scour on turn 2, play a Terramorphic Expanse to get its black mana, and this other deck can kind of go bleh or whatever, do its thing, but then it can untap and just play a Gurmag Angler. And that's a big game. I think it's got a top end that Skred Delver doesn't have, and so anywhere before turn 4, a Gurmag Angler is huge game against the Skred Delver deck. They can't answer that card short of a 2-for-1.
So what I think is special about the Blue-Black Delver deck is it takes what Skred Delver was doing to the next extreme. And what I mean is Mono Blue Delver had 0 removal and needed to out-tempo your opponent or lose. Skred Delver had more removal, so it had like the next level up of I can catch up from a game and still not lose. Now Blue-Black Delver is like, I'm really good at catching up. I can play a 1-mana Angler, use an actual black spell to kill your guy, so I don't have to play basic lands. I can play tap lands now, which also give you like this tiny bit of like life gain, and you can do some other weird things with tap lands. So you can play your big spells and not have to have more than 2 or 3 lands in play and protect them. Like, I think that's the huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. And you kind of touched on it. They're not as tempo reliant as the blue deck or the blue-red deck. They don't need to get ahead of you on tempo. They can just fall behind and then just have one big turn where they, a turn 3 where they went turn 1 tapped land, turn 2 cantrip plus Thought Scour or something, or cantrip plus fetch land, and then on turn 3 they can have a very real turn where they cast a Gurmag Angler and kill a creature, and that's a huge turn on turn 3. They've probably stabilized the board in most scenarios.
Oh, man, and their creatures are just so well placed against the toughness and power of other creatures, like Sultai Scavenger. Like, if you look at Boros Monarch, they're going to have to stack block or use a removal spell on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I guess I lied when I said Boros Monarch had the most efficient flyers. Blue-Black Delver does. It has Sultai Scavenger.
Well,
and it has Insectile Aberration.
Are you adding in like Thought Scour to the mana cost? Because that adds 1. So now it costs 2.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I guess, like, if you think about it, like, the earliest you see a Sultai Scavenger is turn 2. You could see it on turn 2 if they went like turn 1 Thought Scour, turn 2 Thought Scour, Swamp. That's 6, right?
Yeah.
Sultai Scavenger is 6 black, right? No, it's less than that. It's 5 black.
It's 5 and a black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's much easier. Yeah, so realistically, they're playing their Sultai Scavenger the same turn that a little guy, Core Skyfisher, is coming down, and it has an extra power, more efficient. Boom.
Yeah, I think that this deck existing is really why Skred Delver took a hit. I don't even know if it's like the matchup that did it. I'm still kind of trying to figure out. Like, it's so early with this Blue-Black Delver deck that I'm pointing at it like, this is important, guys, and like and it's important because, like, I'm not sure where its place in the meta is. I'm gonna need at least a month to think about it.
Yeah, so we'll just have to see next month what's kind of going on. Let's go to 4th place then on 5th place. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5th place on 26 points. This one doesn't really surprise me, and that's Affinity. I feel like just artifact removal in general has been on an all-time low in sideboards because Affinity has just been kind of nowhere. And whatever format it's in, Affinity is always the deck that can just have
a weekend,
a good weekend. A weekend where it just spiked a tournament because no one was ready for it. And spiking a tournament, that's 6 points on our power rankings. That can really push it up. The other thing is Affinity is just a lot more popular than normal. Let's see. It had 3 top 8s, one of which was a win. And it just had 10 decks total that had top 32 finishes. So I think it was a lot more popular than normal. Usually it's like 3 or 4 decks. So just a lot more people were playing it, and it did spike a tournament, won a challenge.
This month, man, this month, Like, Affinity's up here, a new deck appears, the top dog is down. Wow.
Yeah, this is an interesting
Tron.
this is an interesting month. This is a fun, exciting time to be alive and playing Pauper. So 6th place, 25 points, Burn. And I'm going to turn this over to the residential Burn expert. If you have anything else you want to talk about that hasn't already been said.
I think Burn has found where it belongs. It's hovering around the 30-point mark. It's at 25 right now. 33 last month. That might have been a little bit high. But G2 Lover Runner's the real deal. We don't have to play such bad, slow creatures anymore. Like, when you're playing against Burn and you don't have that much life gain, you play more removal to deal with their creatures. If it's slow removal, then their Lava Runners still found value. I'm not finding really anything special. Let me take a look at my sheet real quick. So I'm looking at my sheet, and it's kind of confusing. Spoiler, Hexproof did better this month, and that is a really, really bad matchup, so that hurts it. But then again, like, Blitz and Tribe aren't doing as well this month, and those are also really hard matchups. The Tron matchup kind of makes it go up, so more Tron is kind of good news. So I think that's where it lost a little bit, is because Tron was so much more popular, which, like, that feels like that's hard to say. Like, yes, Tron is a good matchup for Burn, but there are better matchups for sure. Like, it just has those tools that I keep talking about, and you can lose games even though it's the slow deck and you're the fast deck. If you don't do it fast enough, you lose.
Yeah, I look at this list and I see a lot of pretty good matchups here at the top. So Marasa Tron, positive matchup. Boros Monarch, I think, is probably a very close matchup, but in favor of Burn. I think that Boros Monarch can definitely have an aggressive draw where they can outpace you, but they just have so much fluff.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
all of the times that I played against that deck, they found one or two of their Radiant Fountains, and that made it really, really hard, because
that's like the big one, is they can recur Radiant Fountain. But I think that, like, they can't just draw Radiant Fountain. They need to have that in conjunction with Core Skyfisher, where they're gaining multiple life and now they're clocking you,
And that's kind of what they do. And then they have, like, you don't play enough guys anymore for them to have to point all the removal at guys.
Yeah, they
just
have so much burn.
Galvanic Blast is just a class above your burn.
It might just be a better burn deck than you are.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. I don't have that. I've like 2 games against them, so I'm not, I'm not an expert on this matchup. It didn't feel good when I played it.
I don't want to say anything definitive, but I might redact my former statement. I think Boros Monarch maybe is the favorite.
That's where my heart is Boros Monarch is the favorite.
But then Scred Delver, I think that's definitely a positive matchup for Burn.
I think it's
one of Burn's best matchups.
It feels really good.
It feels really bad on my side.
Yeah, barring like a nuts fairy draw.
And Blue-Black Delver, I think that one just comes down to, I think that might be a little closer, because Blue-Black Delver has gain lands, so they can gain a little bit of life, and they can just present you with a very fast clock. Like, if they can play a Gurmag Angler on turns 2 or 3, and have been able to interact, kill a Lava Runner, counter a spell, they might be able to get you there. I still think Burn is definitely the favorable matchup against any of the Delver decks. But
so again, low sample size. I've played against Blue-Black Delver twice now with Burn, and it was not close. I just creamed them every game.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's a really low sample size.
Yeah, I think that it is a better matchup for the Delver deck than Scred versus Burn, but I still don't think it's the favorite.
I feel it has less counter spells, doesn't it? Because they're not playing the fairy package, are they?
That's true. That is one of the ways that Delver can get ahead is with the fairies. And they don't have the fairies. So maybe it's a lot closer than I'm saying it is. I'm just imagining, blue-black Delver. I guess I don't know how much gaining a single life is worth. I think the biggest thing is just Gurmag Angler. If they can make a very early Gurmag Angler and put a bunch of pressure on you, and then kill one of your creatures, counter one of your key spells, that could be enough to get them over the line. But that still doesn't feel like a super.
So how it felt was that I was tricking them into like they had to keep up counter spells in case I did something nuts or just killed them.
Sure.
So they couldn't play their Thought Scours and things like that, and it really slowed them down to have to.
I just feel like that's not hard to play around. Like the context of their deck. When you're dead. Like if you're at 10 and they have 2 mountains and 2 untapped mana, you're dead to bolt, fire blast. But if I don't know, I feel like it's contextual. It shouldn't be hard to know, like, I am safe to Thought Scour here. Yeah, they're going to hit me. And I'm going to take some damage, but I'm not winning this game if I don't spend my mana. Burn wins that game every time if I just try to sit on my blue counterspell.
Yeah.
The lightning bolt you. Ha ha! Blue counterspell. Got him. And then it's just like, well, you're down a mana, a bunch of tempo, and there's more where that came from. Like,
so they have
you've got to be proactive.
You have to be, player. But
I'm not saying
that deck is a lot slower when it is being proactive.
Yeah, I'm not saying that like this is good. Obviously, you're in a crappy spot, but I still think you have to be you have to be as proactive as you can.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely on turn 1. If I have a Thought Scour, I'm using my Thought Scour or my cantrip, and on turn 2, I'm definitely using another cantrip, and I'm just going to accept the fact that you're probably going to put me to 10 or so by the time I untap on turn 3. But on turn 3, hopefully I'm playing a Gurmag Angler and holding up Counterspell. So now I've stonewalled your Gitu Lava Runner, and you're not going to get a Fire Blast past me. And it's rough. It's super niche. And I think that from that point, Burn kind of needs to piddle out. But I think that's the game plan that you need to take to close out that game. You're not going to ever win if you never spend your mana.
Yeah.
Because your answers to their questions are so inefficient.
They are. And I kept on keeping 1-landers. Like, I mulliganed to 4 to find a 1-lander, like, pretty consistently. And that was better than keeping a 2-spell hand, even with, like, if I had 5 cards in my hand and 3 of them are land, I'm like, meh, I'll go for a 1-lander. I'll just hope to draw a land if these are all spells. That's better. And they just have to deal with so many of them, and they can't because their counterspell package is just smaller.
Yeah. Still definitely. Moral of the story, Burn is the favorite in these Delver matchups. But I think that Blue-Black Delver is slightly closer. Like, I think that it has a better chance of closing out a game than the Scred Delver deck can. I mean, obviously, like, Scred Delver can do something nuts with spells that are sprites, depending on the context of the burn hand. But, like, very often I've been in a position where I try to spell stutter sprite them, and then they can just, like, Searing Blaze or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, Searing Blaze in response to my spell stutter sprite trigger, and then their spell still resolves.
Yeah.
Like, spell stutter sprite is very fragile against burn. And at the end of the day, sometimes the best it does is just 1 for 1. And then it's still just a 1/1. You're not clocking them.
Yeah.
Because, again, burn just says, all right, take my lightning bolt. I've got 6 more. You're hitting me for 1 a turn. I'm hitting you for 6.
And then it's like, ooh, like a Searing Blaze target.
Yeah, that too. And then, like, the next best thing that Scred Delver does is put the fairy back in their hand with Ninja, draw a card, but Burn doesn't care how many cards you draw. So, I don't know. I think that Scred Delver is just a really, really positive matchup for Burn. And I think that Blue-Black Delver is a really positive matchup for Burn. But I think that of the two, Blue-Black Delver has a better shot. If that makes sense. Anyway, we've spent like 100 years talking about Burn, so...
Well, if anything else, I think speaking to things that are our fortes and can actually speak to is what we should do.
Yeah, so that's probably
true.
We're
trying to broaden those into slivers. Thanks, Brandon.
Don't thank me. Thank the listeners. It's what they
wanted. I think they were all being like sarcastic or coy, and you took them serious because it was funny.
Too late.
Okay.
They put this on themselves. I'm going to play slivers.
Do you want to talk about Blue Delver?
Yeah, I do. 22 points. Blue Delver. Probably this isn't reflected by the results, but I think that this is probably the second best Delver deck right now, just based on the fact that I do feel very strongly that mono-color decks are in a better place right now when it comes to these tempo decks, I guess. Like, I think that's Scred Delver's biggest problem is tempo is very, very important, but it loses a lot of tempo trying to set up its mana. Blue Delver doesn't need to worry about it. Its mana is very smooth. Blue-Black Delver doesn't care as much about that because it has the top end to mitigate that. Like we talked about, it can get behind on turns 2 and 3 and then catch up very easily. Scred Delver struggles. And Blue Delver just does a very good job of never falling behind. I think it does the best job of any of these Delver decks of not falling behind.
Yeah, but it does. I feel like the ability for a Delver deck to catch back up, we're seeing is more and more important. More important than that tempo.
Yeah,
but
and
maybe that's just me looking at the numbers.
That's why I called this the second best Delver deck.
Wouldn't it be the third best because it's the worst at that?
At catching up?
Yeah.
I
think Scred Delver's better at catching up with the burn.
Yeah, spells. Okay, you're probably right. But I think that Blue Delver's ability to just not have to worry about catching up kind of mitigates that. So I don't know. Maybe Blue Delver and Scred Delver are very close right now. I do think that Blue-Black Delver is the best of the Delver decks currently. Just in the context of this meta.
Close, like 8 points close. That's I'd say that's exactly what I would say. Is about 8 points away from each other.
Okay. The other thing that I think is important to note is that Delver as an archetype had 80 points this month between these three decks. So
still on top.
It's still on top in that sense. It is nice though that it's been broadened a bit. It's not just like Blue Delver kind of has mediocre results and then Scred Delver crushes everything. It's nice that they're all very close in power level according to the, our rankings. And in my opinion too, I think they're all similarly close. I do think that certain decks have an edge over the others and vice versa, but I think that's better, that we have multiple Delver archetypes doing well, but not smushing everything.
Yeah, I'd like that better too.
I guess I didn't even include the Is It Blitz decks in this. So it's a little more when I can't remember how many. I want to say that all but one Is It Blitz deck played for Delver of Secrets. So
add them to the pile.
Yeah, add them to the pile. So we're up to like 86 points at this rate. Anyway, I digress.
I want to say the Blue Delver slot is probably the least exciting slot the whole Power Rankings episode. It's just like, it's still
about
there.
Where it normally is. It hasn't really changed. It still always kind of hovers in this zone.
Yeah.
Next one, 20 points, Elves. So Elves, not a very popular deck. Only 6 appearances this month in the Power Rankings. 3 top 8s. 1 win, 1 second place finish, and then 1 just like 5th place finish. So Not a very popular deck, not a very well represented deck in the top 32s, but it had very good results. Won a challenge, took second at a challenge. And
that's impressive.
Yeah, I think that's just indicative of this deck. I think that this deck is, when it comes down to raw power, the strongest, the most powerful deck in the format in terms of speed and just power. But it lacks consistency, and there are a lot of things that can hose it. We saw that. We'll see next that Blue-Black Alchemy is on the up and up. That's kind of a rough matchup. Marasa Tron, I think, can kind of deal with it. When they have their Electricities in the main deck, they've got their Fogs, Moments Piece. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you're the Elves player. You kind of just lose. You can lose to variance quite a bit, but when Elves has its nut draws, I think that they're the most powerful in the format.
Isn't that easy to say about combo decks, though? It's just like the combo deck is the most powerful because it ends up doing it drew 40 cards, but I don't know. I think you're right, just because of how few decks showed up and how well they did.
I would never say this about Is It Blitz or Tribe. I think that Tribe and Is It Blitz and those other decks, their nut draws are good.
Yeah.
But and this just might be my opinion, and I just could be wrong, but I think that the discrepancy in the power levels of the nut draws of these decks is just that drastic. The nuttest draw that Tribe combo can have, for one, is just less consistent. It doesn't happen as frequently as Elves' nut draws. And two, I think, is just more vulnerable, it's just easier to interact with. And I think that's saying something. I think that Elves...
Turn 2 kill, though.
Yeah, turn 2 kill is fun, but there's a lot of ways to interact with the turn 2 kill.
That's true.
And when you're going off on the turn 2 kill, there's very few ways to protect yourself, and you just got to kind of hope that your opponent doesn't have it. Sometimes your opponent just plays a tap land, and you're in the 4% that you have the turn 2 kill, and you get them with Tribe. But Elves, if you're on the draw or you're on the play, and your opponent plays a turn 2 tap land, and you untap and play like a Birchlore Rangers, whereas your first turn was like a Mana Dork, and now you kind of just have a big board, and then on your turn 3 you just like you said, draw 40 cards.
So this thought just occurred to me, and I think I'm going back to a previous point, and it's not about Elves. I just want to say it before I forget. So I really do think that our listeners were being funny when they were saying slivers. And
I'm sure they were, but
we want Brandon to be Brandon still, and we can put Brandon to the best use playing Blue-Black Delver. You play Delver decks. Just play this new one so we can hear from you all the information we need, and you get to still play Delver, and you know how to play Delver. Come on, it's a good idea. It's a better idea than slivers.
It's what the listeners want. They want slivers. It's what they want. It's what the people want. Give the people what they want.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to Hexproof?
Yeah, let's do it. 14 points, Boggles. 9th place. This is, again, I think, just an example of a powerful linear deck that just can have its good weeks. Boggles had 5 appearances in top 32s, 2 of which were top 4 appearances. So I think this is just an example of a very linear polarized deck that can do something powerful. Just having a good week, dodging a lot of its bad matchups, and people just not having the right tools at the right time.
I want to point at a couple things. Burn is the first one. I'm literally pointing with my finger right now.
Yeah, it has a very good Burn matchup. It has a near unwinnable Elves matchup, as I've found.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets to the point where, I talked about that game that I played, right?
Did.
Where he was hitting me with a 20 powered creature that had 3 armadillo cloaks on it, so he's gaining like 60 life a turn, and I was like, cool, I'll go to 180. At the end of your turn, I'm going to gain all that life back. And then I was just literally waiting to draw a Birchlore Ranger, Timberwatch Elf. That's the tap XX one, right? Yeah. That's like literally all I was waiting for, because as soon as I did that, I was just going to crack him for 400, and I'm going to have him on a 2-turn clock while he's gaining 60 life a turn and hitting me for 20.
So do you think... I'll assert what I think first. So I think Boggles probably has Boggles has a better matchup against Blue-Black Delver than it does Scred Delver. The way that Scred Delver, I think, interacts with it is it has more counter spells than Blue-Black Delver, from my experience. And I think Boggles has the tools to deal with edicts. So the way Blue-Black Delver is going to deal with it is less counter spells, more edicts. And Boggles can deal with those edicts, so if I had to face Boggles, I would rather play the Scred Delver list.
I don't know. I think that having an edict is already putting it over the top, because they don't just have edicts. They have disfigures, and they have all these other ways to deal with the derpy derps. Because like a lot of their ways to deal with edicts are cartouche of white.
Solidarity.
Make a 1/1 without hexproof, or I've seen Colony Garden, get a 0/1 plant. They can just have those turns where they go like turn 1 Boggle, turn 2 Boggle, pants up the other Boggle, and then those are rough because you need to now double edict them. But then post board, the blue-black deck also just has I don't know, Electricity is really good.
If you think about the stats on stats episode, come back. Of how often they're gonna have 2 hexproof creatures, isn't it like 70% of the time, or maybe not even that high?
So how many hexproof creatures do they have? They have Boggle. They have 12, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're right. I think 12. It's incredibly close, but I think that you're right that Fairy Miscreant and Electricity post board give Scred Delver the slight edge.
And Gurmag Angler does not do well against
Gurmag Angler is not an all-star against a 8/8 lifelink Perpaderp. Yeah, it's very bad. So I will agree with you. I think I'll agree with you. Scred Delver is probably the favorite. I think it's close. I think both decks are pretty evenly matched. And by evenly matched, I mean poorly favored. Like both decks are going to have a rough time against Boggles for the most part, but I think it's probably like, I don't know, like 40-60 in Scred's favor, and then it's probably like 37-63 for blue-black, or not in Scred's favor, sorry.
Okay.
Scred is the 40% deck.
It's like, I am so confused and turned around now. Okay.
Yeah, Scred Delver is not the favorite, but it's like 60% to win the matchup.
Okay.
I think you might be right.
Let's keep on moving.
Keep on keeping on. So 13 points. 10th place? We're just going to say 10th place.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's where we're at. Blue-Black Alchemy and Tribe Combo. And I think this is the highest Blue-Black Alchemy's been in at least a month or two. Like, it was like non-existent last month, right? Like, it had 0 points. It had 2 points last month. Yeah. Okay. And the month before?
I'll go over the few months before. 13, 10, 10. So we're back to normal.
We're like back to where it normally is, which I think is also attributed to, I think, just Delver being down, maybe. I don't know. I actually find this really interesting that it's back up to where it was when decks like Marasatron and Burn are doing so well. I think that Blue-Black Alchemy has a good Boggles matchup. Maybe not good, but
I want to agree with you. Like, they have enough removal and counter spells.
Yeah, but I mean, Boggles definitely will steal a lot of games from Alchemy, but
definitely,
I think that they are the most well equipped. I think to handle them. outside of decks that are just faster and more consistent.
I know I want to agree with you, but I
Or I guess
think I've
maybe
watched a
besides
blue-black
Tron.
alchemy player play that matchup, and they just groaned and was like, "Oh no!" And then it was like turn like 15 or something like that. The Boggles player was just like, "And I enchant it? Yeah, I enchant it? Yeah." And it's just like they didn't close it out fast enough, and they rebuilt. And they're
Interesting.
like, even when I get enough stuff to stop their first wave, their next
How long
waves
ago though was
eventually.
that? Was that when? Because I mean, recently in recent months, Blue Black Alchemy has started.
It
Most
wasn't
lists that I
recent.
see are like they're now on 4 Gurmag Anglers, 4 Mole Drifters, Augur of Bolus.
It was recent enough that it was that.
It was that. Okay. Well, I it's probably very close. I definitely believe that Boggles will have a lot of matches that they just take away. But I do think that Alchemy probably has some of the best tools besides like Marasatron, maybe.
I definitely don't think that Boggles had an impact on Blue Black Alchemy's position. I think
Okay,
Blue Black Alchemy is just kind of a mainstay. I think it's just like this is where it belongs. I, I'm
sure.
having a hard time pointing to anything because
I just think it's weird because I see a lot of things in here that I don't think are good for Blue Black Alchemy, like Marasatron, Burn. I always kind of like to be on the side of a Delver deck in that matchup. I mean, I think they're incredibly close, and maybe that's just from personal experience, but I don't know. I just see a lot of stuff on this list that makes me not excited about playing a deck like Blue Black Alchemy.
I mean I feel like that's how it's always been. It's just like why is this deck doing okay? And it's just because it's powerful enough.
Sure.
Like that's why I'm having a hard time pointing to anything is because I've never like I know that sometimes have been like edicts are really bad, this deck goes down, but it's just like it's sometimes powerful enough. Again, like they just soul manipulation your guy and did something stupid. Now they have 20 cards in their hand.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next deck, 13 points, tribe combo. So tied with Blue Black Alchemy. I think this deck is probably my favorite deck in the format
Hmm.
in terms of how fun it is to play.
Yeah,
But
it's taken
I,
a dive.
I think this is probably where it belongs. I think that it's too slow. I would say
Hmm.
that this is probably a turn 4.5 deck for it to go off.
It's
Maybe
been
turn 3.5. It just seems kind of slow and a little less consistent than some of these other decks.
I think it's doing exactly what every combo deck in Pauper does, and it just I feel like they're all of the combo decks are struggling for points. Like they want to be better. I have a really hard time conveying what I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
Well, let
but
me just look at the so Tribe had a total of 5 decks with top 32 appearances. One was a top 4 appearance, and one was a top 8 appearance, and the other 3 were top 32. So it's not very well represented, which could be another thing, but it's doing fine.
I mean like every deck in or every combo deck in Pauper just kind of surges and then pulls back. And that's
Yeah.
just kind of what they do. That's the normal
Well, also
trend of
like
them.
LSV played this deck, and then it got incredibly popular, and then it kind of fell back to where I think it belongs. Like I'm 100% gonna blame that on Louis Scott Vargas. Like that surge that we saw of it. I don't think that was anything with the deck other than that one of the most popular and influential pro players in the world played the deck and everyone got excited about it.
Well,
That's the reason
okay.
I built it.
Timeline. Uh, it had 25 points. It had 0 points.
Uh-huh.
Jumped to 25 in a month.
Yeah.
LSV plays the deck. It goes to 35, and then it
Yep.
went 30, 24, 26, 22. Now we're down to 14. So this is its down month. I don't think that it will stay here, to be honest.
You don't?
Like I always bet for things to stay where they were, unless something like I cannot speak to the blue black Delver matchup at all or the burn matchup. Burn matchup
I
was hard Okay, no, I can't speak to the
Yeah.
burn matchup. Tribe feels favored.
Okay.
So I want to say that this is low. I don't think that this is where I don't think this is where it belongs. I'll say that.
I don't have any experience with it, but just looking at the context of the blue black deck, I would imagine that it's rough for Boggles.
Tribe combo.
What did I say?
Boggles.
Yeah, tribe combo. I think I was just looking at Boggles on our notes, and that's why I said it. But yeah, I think that things are probably rough for tribe combo. Well, I don't know. God, the thing about tribe combo that makes it so good are its circular logic draws.
Mm-hmm.
The draws where it can kind of go uncontested, and then the turn it's ready to go off has access to dispel and circular logic. Those are so strong.
Yeah.
Those are really strong draws. Anyway, should we move on then? I think we're on 12.
Yeah, let's go fast from here.
Okay, 8 points. Is it Blitz? It is. It is Blitz.
Yeah, stay where you belong. Is it Blitz?
Yeah, this is about where that deck belongs. 6 points. Red deck wins. Mono black control and black white pestilence.
So the mono black and the black white pestilence are both playing pestilence, and that is a lot of increase. I mean, those decks have been getting around 2 points, I want to say, for the past couple weeks, and that's a little bit of a surge. That's all. That's, I don't know, not much else to say.
I will say there were, between the three of them, there were 6, or between the two of them, mono black control, mono black pestilence, there were 6 total decks, 3 each, none of which made a top 8.
Yeah, so they're not doing well.
No, they just show up and they do fine, but not great.
Yeah.
Next, 5 points. Green white Tron. This was basically the blue white Tron deck list, but instead of blue cards, they had like Fangren Marauder.
It seems okay. I don't want to disparage the deck, but it seems like a good player doing well once, right?
I think that's exactly what it was. There's one deck total last month that had a top 32, just one, and it was second place finish. So
this is what we call a successful experiment.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be a contender. We'll have to see. But right now, it could just be on the back of a really good player. I forgot to look at who played it, but
yeah, one win does not make a trend.
No, not at all. Okay, 2 points, and these are our last place, all tied with 2 points. We've got Blue White Mill, no Delver of Secrets. I don't really remember what white cards were in there. There was definitely the white one, the really good white one that like Boros Monarch plays with flashback. That's not Battle Screech.
Are you talking about Prismatic Strands?
Prismatic Strands. I think there wouldn't be Prismatic Strands in that deck. What does Prismatic Strands do? Do I even know what that card does?
You name a color,
and then you don't take damage. You fog from that source or colors of that source, right? Yeah, it definitely had Prismatic Strands in it. It was just a weird brew. Probably won't see it again. We had blue-black Flicker. Like, this was a very classic blue-black Flicker deck. Chittering Rats, Mole Drifter, Mnemonic Wall, Ghostly Flicker deck.
Hello, old friend that I hate.
Yeah. Next, another blast from the past. We have just Rug Tron. Fangren Marauders, the thing, the big X burn spell.
Rolling Thunder.
I'm the worst with card names. Mole Drifters. Yeah, just a very classic take on Tron. Like from 2016 called wants its Tron deck back.
Keep going.
Blue White Tron is next on 2 points. And then we've got Blue Black Reanimator, and then Red Black Reanimator, and then Stompy. This one seems odd to me.
There's no more decks.
Well, there's one more deck.
No, they were all done.
All right, we're not going to mention what the last deck is. It'll be a contest. listeners, get to us on the Twitter device and put in your guesses for what this deck could be, and I may or may not give you a prize if you win. Full disclosure, I probably won't give you anything, but
it rhymes with Schwivers.
Don't give him a hint.
And it's
anyway,
not very
I want
good.
to talk about Stompy for like 2 minutes. So this is one that I think should be higher than it is. Do you agree or disagree? I don't think it should be like incredibly high, but I feel like it should be up there in like the Is It Blitz Blue Black Alchemy tribe combo range. You know, like 6 to 12 points.
And when I was playing this deck a few weeks ago, I was not very high on it. I think, like, for some reason, there's a weird rivalry between Red Deck Wins and Stompy in my mind of, like, it's two versions of the same deck that just plays bears for one. And I don't know, Stompy just doesn't... I don't know. I don't want to speak to it too much because, like, I don't like the way it's built right now.
You don't like just jamming Elephant Guide onto stuff?
I really don't like jamming Elephant Guide onto stuff. Like, that is not... Like, it... When it happens, it's good, but, like, you're adding so much weird variance to your just linear aggro deck.
Majority of the time, you're, like, drawing too many Elephant Guides, or your creature's getting killed in response to your Elephant Guide.
Or it's just not safe, and you're just like, well, I guess I'll Elephant... Oh, it's dead.
Yeah, or just, like, your option there is just not do anything with your Elephant Guide forever, and you're just playing some derpa-derps.
Don't hit 3 mana. Like, I don't like playing a bunch of 3 mana spells in my, like, linear aggro deck. I don't like where Stompy's at, but yeah, this is probably low for the power level of the deck. I don't think 2 points is where it's going to stay. I would expect it to go higher.
I think that you and I have very similar opinions on this. I just think that my opinion would be reflected if Stompy was around 6 to 10 points. Maybe that's too high. I don't know if you think that's too high. But
no, that seems about right.
I think that you and I have very similar opinions on this deck right now. Which, I don't know. I understand your point, but I kind of see it from the opposite end of, I just feel like the amount of free wins you should get from being able to go Solana Ledgewalker, Raincore, or Solana Ledgewalker Elephant Guide, or Solana Ledgewalker Howl of the Night pack, you know?
I think it's detracting too much from the wins you'd get otherwise. So now you have this free win package, but your I earned this win package has been emptied.
Yeah, you're taking away the consistency of the deck, and now you're kind of just on this variance.
Yeah, like the whole thing I originally loved about this deck was like you can't interact with this because it's just like, no, you don't interact with me. I keep attacking. You decided to block. That was a mistake. It kind of turned it into like, you know, I'm fairly attacking. Here's this win. I just play this Elephant Guide. Hooray. Like,
okay.
I don't know.
It's completely unenjoyable. It kind of does what my big problem with Is It Blitz is that deck, you just draw the wrong half sometimes. Sometimes you only draw one creature and it gets killed and you just have a bunch of useless spells in your hand. Or, you know, the inverse, you draw a bunch of bad creatures and you're trying to play this really bad aggro game. Yeah, I guess like that's sort of the same thing with Stompy, is they've now added this element of variance where I drew 3 Solana Ledgewalkers, and I didn't draw anything to like pump them up or make them good, and so they were just 1/1s with evasion that got blocked by spell stutter sprites that countered my other spell. Or the inverse, you just draw too many Elephant Guides and you don't have time to throw them on, or you don't draw 3 mana. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and specifically, if people don't know what I'm talking about, of like, you know, like, okay, if you're not playing Elephant Guides, what are you playing? It's like, you cut down a land again down to 16, you play another Curian Ranger, you put Mutagenics back in the deck, and a Bone Splitter. Bam.
Maybe you even just put in a single copy of Young Wolf again. You know, go back to just having another random 2/2 for 1 mana.
So, oh my gosh. I was playing randomly throughout the week. I will just be like, would this work as a deck? And I decided to make something that was just, you know, that new counter spell that shuffles 4 cards from your graveyard into your deck. It's like super cover up. That's what it's called. Super cover up. I was playing that card with a whole bunch of Squadron Hawks and Legion Conquistadors, and then black spells because I'm sadistic and I like to lose games. And my opponent went Young Wolf. I was like, crap. And they went Nest Invader, double crap, Young Wolf. And I was like looking at my edicts like, yeah, this is how the first game with this deck should go. Is some random jank opponent just wanted to jam a whole bunch of Young Wolves. And yeah.
The universe is a cruel mistress.
I was laughing at it, but just like, really?
That's heckin' funny.
I lost.
Such funny, much wow.
I lost a lot.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Get this done. Get this done and over. This was a long episode, but that's all right because there was a lot of cool stuff to talk about. It was an exciting episode. So, end times.
End times.
So this was Common Knowledge. That was episode 40 of our power rankings for September. Thank you guys so very much for listening. We really love it. I can't believe sometimes that I have even the small following that I do have for this show. It's incredible to me. So thank you guys again for listening. If you want to support us, you can do so on patreon.com/common knowledge. We still got our stretch goal. We're still $15 away from our first stretch goal for our 5-card blind tournament. If you don't know what that is, you're a new listener, go to our Patreon page and you can see the rules in the description for what that is. Patreons will also have access to the Lobbert versus Brandon videos. And Sean and I have been discussing some other perks that are kind of in the works that we will announce at a future... Oh, Common Coliseum. I'm sorry. We haven't updated our show notes, but it's called Common Coliseum, not Brandon versus Lobbert videos. Join the Patreon. No threshold, any dollar amount. You'll have access to the Common Coliseum videos where Sean and I, well, it's just nonsense, really. But you guys can also see the graph that Sean has where he records all the data from our power rankings. You get to see a nice little nifty line graph that just shows you exactly what all the decks are doing. And you get that for free. You don't even have to be a patron, but it's just there on our Patreon page.
Have you seen the meme where it's just Nickelback and he holds up the picture and he goes, look at this graph! And then that's us face. Right now. Yeah, look at this graph.
Honestly, that's probably the best thing that Nickelback has ever done for humanity. I guess I probably can't say that. I don't know. Maybe they've done like some good charity work. Or
I am 100% sure they probably have done charity work. I mean, we're people to talk because we've never done anything for charity. Ever. That's not
true.
Not as an organization.
Okay, that's fair.
I also can't speak for constructed criticism, but Common Knowledge has never donated a penny to charity, and I'll stand by that.
You are truth. I don't know if I should say, but I'm going to say Nickelback sucks. Their music is not good. I'm sorry.
Really going out on a limb there, Brandon. I almost called you Brian. What the heck?
In my job interview today, the guy that was interviewing kept calling me Braden. He would like switch between Braden, Brandon, Braden, Brandon, Braden, Braden, Brandon, Brandon. And I was like, all right, he's got it. Braden. I'm like, all right, you lost it again. But I wasn't going to like correct him, you know?
It's like, give me a job. I'll be Braden. I'll be Jennifer. Like,
I'll be anybody you want me to be, man. You paying me? I'll be whoever you want. Holy cow, where were we?
Follow Constructed Criticism on YouTube. That's where you're going to find all of our YouTube videos, as well as all of the other channels on the network. There's a podcast for every format that you want to play, and formats you don't want to play, and you know, there might not be one for like some of your weird homebrew stuff, but go to YouTube anyway.
They definitely aren't talking about Commander. If casual Magic is your scene, Common Knowledge is probably the closest you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's a very competitive, Spike-centric network. But anyway, I'm going to put on my best Chad impression and say, smash that like button, like and subscribe and favorite.
Yeah.
Sorry, no offense to anyone named Chad. I know that there are a lot of Chads out there that aren't like that, but that's just the meme. And you got to live by the memes. Anyway, let's see. So we pimped our Patreon. We talked about the YouTube channel. You can send us emails, and we will read them. Most of the time, we'll read them on the show, unless you specifically ask us not to. But you can give us an email, commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. And we love emails. They're the most exciting thing that could ever happen in our boring lives. And in closing, because this episode has gone so long and we need to just finish it, thank you again to our amazing sponsors, puremtgo.com. Check them out for awesome articles and other podcasts. You can find deck lists. They're always looking for writers. You can sign up and try your hand at writing and get a little store credit back to feed the paper crack, cardboard crack. That's what it is. I was trying to remember what those little like comics that used to be a thing. I don't know if they're still a thing, but cardboard crack is what it was. Anyway, and lastly, but certainly not leastly, is our sponsor Inked Gaming. They are awesome because they've got some really cool merch, yeah, merchandise, some really cool swag. Stuff we all get.
Yeah, you did that last week too.
I'm going to do it every week. Check them out if you are interested in buying any of their sweet merch. You can use our coupon code CCMTG10 and you get a 10% discount and we get a sweet kickback. So you save money and you support the network. So do that. I recommend doing it because Inked Gaming just has cool stuff. And you save money and we get money. So win, win, win. Win. All the win. All right, I'm done. I'm not done. We have one more thing to do. Holy moly. All right, last thing that I promise this is the last thing, and then we're gone forever until next week. You can give the show a follow at CK Podcast MTG on the Twitter device. You can also find me on the Twitters where I will sometimes be interacting. I'm not very good at social media is my problem. So maybe I'll work on that. But you can follow me at my Twitter. There it is, at bclark_ck. And Sean, where can listeners find you if they want to contact you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Lobbert8. That is Lobbert, number 8, the way I spell it every week. And you can follow me on YouTube or subscribe to me, whatever you want. And you just have to look for Lobbert, and I should come right up.
Yeah, you get to see all of your popper brews in your battles. Bye.